Hello friends, let us now learn some important points about mitral regurgitation. So, mitral regurgitation, it mainly occurs due to the damage of chorda tendineae. Whenever there is damage of chorda tendineae, this results in mitral regurgitation. Even if you remember, the mitral valve prolapse is also associated with mitral regurgitation. Whenever there is defective mitral valves, then if this is the heart, right, and this is the interatrial and ventricular septum. Now think that there is mitral regurgitation. Okay, so when the left ventricle is contracting, when left ventricle is contracting in order to push the blood to the aorta, instead of blood will reach the aorta, also will flow through the aortic valve to the aorta, but along with that some of the blood will also regurgitate back into the left atrium. As a result, if you see, the left atrium undergoes volume overload, and this will result in left atrial dilatation. It will cause left atrial dilatation, and because of that, when left atrium contracts, large blood enters the left ventricle, and as a result there is volume overload of left ventricle also, which will result in left ventricular dilatation. This can even cause back pressure to the lungs also, leading to pulmonary congestion, and there will be dyspnea is seen in these patients. So first we will see the etiology of this mitral regurgitation. If you see the etiology, it can occur due to infective endocarditis or due to the damage to the papillary muscles, most commonly after the MI. After myocardial infarction, there can be damage to the papillary muscles, which can also result in this mitral regurgitation. And even after mitral valve prolapse, it is also associated with mitral regurgitation. And if you remember, the blunt trauma to the chest can also result in mitral regurgitation. Whenever there is blunt trauma to the chest, this can cause mitral regurgitation, and sometimes it can even result in sudden cardiac death also. Okay, then these are the acute causes of mitral regurgitation. Then we also have chronic mitral regurgitation causes. So if you see the causes of chronic mitral regurgitation, just a minute. Causes of chronic mitral regurgitation, these can be divided into two types. These are, if you see, one, mitral valve prolapse can cause chronic mitral regurgitation. Rheumatic heart disease can cause chronic arterial regurgitation, chronic mitral regurgitation. Subacute bacterial endocarditis and cleft mitral valve. See, this cleft mitral valve is actually a congenital cause of mitral regurgitation. And why do you see this cleft mitral valve? It occurs due to ostium primum ASD. Ostium primum ASD will lead to this cleft mitral valve. Okay, so we will learn some important points about the chronic mitral regurgitation. Okay, so in the chronic mitral regurgitation, so first we will learn some points about chronic mitral regurgitation. So this chronic mitral regurgitation can be divided into primary causes and secondary causes. Okay, in the primary causes, the main issue here is damage to damage to the mitral valve. So this damage to the mitral valve can occur due to the infective endocarditis, mitral valve prolapse, or radiation, or it can also occur due to the ostium primum defect, which is leading to cleft mitral valve, right? Then we have secondary causes. In the secondary causes, these secondary causes These mainly include those causes where there is damage to the mitral valve leading to mitral regurgitation. For example, in dilated cardiomyopathy, the heart will dilate. Along with the dilatation of whole heart, even the mitral valve will undergo stretching will occur. Even the heart has undergone dilated, so along with the heart, even the mitral valve undergoes stretching, and as a result it cannot close properly. And even it can occur due to ischemic cardiomyopathy, hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. So all these are the secondary causes of chronic mitral regurgitation. Then as I have already said, there is left atrial enlargement is seen here, and because of this left atrial enlargement, this will also predispose to atrial fibrillation. So if you were asked what is the most, there is one important one liner, what is the most common characteristic finding which occurs in secondary varieties of mitral regurgitation? This is mitral valvular dilatation. There is mitral annular dilatation is seen in secondary mitral regurgitation. Then there are some important one liners more. So if you see this mitral annular calcification, there is something called as mitral annular calcification, where the annulus of mitral valve undergoes calcified, and this is seen both in mitral regurgitation and also mitral stenosis. Then SLE and rheumatoid arthritis, they are actually associated with mitral stenosis rather than regurgitation. And if you see ankylosing spondylitis and syphilis, these are associated with atrial regurgitation, aortic regurgitation. Okay, and if you were asked one more one liner, the severity of mitral regurgitation is directly proportional to the vena contracta. What is this vena contracta? This vena contracta is the narrowest part of this is the narrowest part with highest velocity of the regurgitant jet of blood from left ventricle to the left atrium. See, I will just show you this. See, if this is the left atrium, okay, then we have this is the left ventricle, right? Now when there is mitral regurgitation, there is flow of blood from the left ventricle to left atrium. So think that these are the mitral valve which are closed, but they are not closed properly, and as a result there is regurgitation of blood which occurs from left ventricle to left atrium. So here when the regurgitation of blood is seen, you will see it goes something like this. So here at this point exactly, you will see it is narrow. This narrowest part of the jet which has this narrowest part is called as vena contracta. This vena contracta, the severity is directly proportional to this vena contracta, and this vena contracta is also it also has highest velocity, right? So this is about the important points. Now if you see some more important points, criteria we will see. Criteria of mitral regurgitation, if you see, that is severe mitral regurgitation. Criteria of severe mitral regurgitation, this is important. Here the vena contracta, in severe mitral regurgitation, vena contracta should be more than 0.7 centimeter square, and regurgitation volume should be more than 60 ml. Vena contracta should be more than 0.7 centimeters. Regurgitation volume should be more than 60 milliliters per beat, and regurgitation fraction should be more than 50%. Regurgitation orifice should be more than 0.4 centimeters. So these are the important points about the regurgitation, severe mitral regurgitation. So in severe mitral regurgitation, vena contracta should be more than 0.7 centimeter square. Regurgitation volume should be more than 60 ml per beat. Regurgitation fraction should be more than 50 seconds. Regurgitation orifice should be more than 0.4 centimeter square. Then how are you going to treat this severe mitral regurgitation? This is mainly treated by mitral valve prolapse, mitral valve replacement you will do, and along with repair, you can, instead of replacement, you can do mitral valve repair can be done, and this is actually mostly preferred over the mitral valve replacement. Instead of doing mitral valve replacement, mitral valve repair is more preferred. So we have said acute and chronic mitral regurgitation. Actually, what is the differences between the acute mitral regurgitation and chronic mitral regurgitation? So if you see the acute mitral regurgitation, first we will see the size of the heart. Heart size will be normal in acute mitral regurgitation, and it is enlarged, especially dilated left atrium and left ventricle are seen in chronic mitral regurgitation. In acute mitral regurgitation, left atrium is normal, and here in chronic mitral regurgitation, left atrium is enlarged. In acute mitral regurgitation, pulmonary edema is present. In chronic mitral regurgitation, pulmonary edema is present or absent. In acute mitral regurgitation, there is early systolic murmur is seen, whereas in chronic mitral regurgitation, we see pansystolic murmur. Okay, pansystolic murmur is seen. So if I draw this diagram of acute and chronic mitral regurgitation, so here you will see this is the S1 and this is S2. In acute mitral regurgitation, the murmur is only present in the early stage, and in chronic mitral regurgitation you will see the murmur, which is pansystolic murmur is seen. Okay, so these are the two differences between acute mitral regurgitation and chronic mitral regurgitation. What are the other systolic murmurs which you can see? You will see late systolic murmur is seen in mitral valve prolapse, and you will see ejection systolic murmur you will see in aortic stenosis. So these are the other systolic murmurs which you see. So you see early systolic murmur in acute mitral regurgitation, and pansystolic murmur you see in chronic mitral regurgitation. Late systolic murmur you see in mitral valve prolapse, and ejection systolic murmur you see in aortic stenosis. So if you were asked about the clinical features of this mitral stenosis, there will be fatigue, there will be orthopnea will be there, that is breathing when breathlessness is seen on lying down. Paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, where breathlessness is seen after lying down for after few minutes of time after lying down. There is hepatomegaly is seen, and you will see ankle edema. Increased JVP is seen, and tricuspid regurgitation is also seen. All these are due to even more back pressure. Okay, sometimes if it is associated with atrial fibrillation, then you can see palpitations can be there. These atrial fibrillations can result in formation of emboli. This emboli can go to the brain and they result in formation of stroke. Okay, and or TIA, transient, they can cause TIA or stroke, transient ischemic attack or stroke. So if you examine this type of patient on examination, you will see the BP to be normal, and you will see thrill is present at the apex on palpation. You will see that, and at the apex you will see this type of circulation is called as hyperdynamic apex beat. You call this mitral regurgitation has hyperdynamic apex beat, and you will also see displacement of apex beat. Why is the apex beat displaced? Because the left ventricle and left atrium are enlarged a lot. So because of the enlargement of left atrium and left ventricle, the apex beat is also displaced. Then if we see the auscultation, on auscultation you will see presence of on auscultation S1 will be soft because of mitral regurgitation. S2 will be A2 P2, that is A2 appears early than P2, so there is wide variable split is seen. wide variable split S2 is seen because of why is it wide variable split S2? This is because of see, here there is regurgitation of blood from the left ventricle to left atrium, right? So because of this regurgitation of blood, some of the blood in the left ventricle goes into the left atrium and some amount of blood goes into the aorta. So because some amount of blood goes back into the left atrium, the blood in the left ventricle is easily escaped because it has two openings. So as a result, the A2 occurs earlier than compared to P2 always. So here you see variable split S2 is seen, and if you see S3 is present, and you will also hear a murmur. The murmur which you hear in mitral regurgitation is a systolic murmur. It can be either a early systolic murmur if it is acute mitral regurgitation, or pansystolic murmur if it is chronic mitral regurgitation. And if you see the ECG, in ECG you will see presence of something called premitral, that is, you will see the bifid P wave, because this is mainly because of the left atrial enlargement. So this is P mitral which you see. This P mitral will be more than 120 milliseconds, okay, and this is mainly due to the left atrial enlargement, and this will focus that there is left axis deviation is present. Okay, so this is about the ECG. Then we have seen that this is P mitral is if there is more than 120 milliseconds, that is this width is more than 120 milliseconds, then we call it as P mitral. Then we have one more thing which is called as P pulmonal. What is this P pulmonal? So in P pulmonal we will take into account the vertical height. So here the main thing is which we take into account is vertical height. If the vertical height is, so this is the normal thing. Now if the vertical height is more, okay, if the in P pulmonal vertical height should be more than 2.5. If the vertical height is more than 2.5 mm, then it is P pulmonal. This will show that there is right atrial enlargement, right? So this is about the X-ray finding, but this is not seen in mitral regurgitation, right? Next we have to learn about the chest X-ray. In chest X-ray you will see that there is cardiothoracic ratio is increased, thus you will see there is cardiomegaly, and because the left atrium enlargement occurs, and this will push the this will push the left atrium, push the right atrium also. You will see presence of double aortic shadow, and you will also see mild pulmonary congestion is seen, especially with hilar shadow, because of the back pressure of the blood from the left atrium to the pulmonary veins and pulmonary system. And you will also see presence of curly B lines are seen, especially if there is pulmonary edema. So these are the main features which you see. And then if on investigation of choice is investigation of choice is we do echocardiography can be done. And now treatment. The treatment of chronic mitral regurgitation can be based on acute mitral regurgitation or chronic mitral regurgitation. In acute mitral regurgitation we can give furosemide or we can give sodium nitroprusside can be given to the patient. These furosemide and sodium nitroprusside are used in acute conditions, acute onset of sudden decompensation which leads to left ventricular failure, to prevent sudden stress on the heart. Okay, so this sodium nitroprusside is used in acute sudden decompensation. And if you see the chronic mitral regurgitation, in chronic mitral regurgitation we will do mitral valve repair is preferred when compared to mitral valve replacement. So if you were asked about the indications of chronic mitral valve repair, so these include, we have one, if there is any symptomatic severe and chronic mitral regurgitation, then we do mitral valve repair, has already explained. And if there is and also if there is asymptomatic chronic mitral regurgitation with the following findings. If there is asymptomatic chronic mitral regurgitation where the left ventricular ejection flow is less than 60%, and if left ventricular end systolic diameter is more than 40 mm, in both these cases we can do mitral valve repair. Nowadays a new approach has been tried for mitral valve repair, which is called as transcatheter mitral valve tip. Transcatheter mitral valve tip. Okay, so this is about the mitral regurgitation. And one more thing on lateral X-ray. If you see the lateral X-ray, on lateral view of X-ray, you will see presence of walking man sign. This walking man sign is due to the enlarged left atrium. This mainly occurs due to enlarged left atrium, which is causing enlargement of carinal angle. This enlarged left atrium causes enlargement of carinal angle, which is seen as walking man sign. So this is about the mitral regurgitation. Thank you for watching.